Okay, this is Module 2, Lecture 3, called Pride, Flock, Pack and School. Okay, now Neil Diamond wrote a song called Solitary Man, a song that was reveling in loneliness after a broken relationship. The human animal generally does not like being alone, and it most certainly cannot stand being totally isolated. A few individuals can handle this, but they're the exception rather than the rule. The natural world is home to some of the most mind-boggling examples of group dynamics, family cohesion and teamwork that could make a rugby or any football team proud. Now, whilst working as a safari guide in the Kruger National Park, I noticed firsthand how a pride of lions thought outside of the box and used their environment to successfully hunt one of the most dangerous and difficult to them large game. Giraffe have an enormously powerful kick that would kill or disable a thin-boned cat with ease, with 4 sets of dinner plate-sized hooves flying about. A lion, who is by nature essentially lazy, would find something easier, though harder to stalk, to kill. Using a tar road as a main focal point, I saw a pride of enterprising lions charge a giraffe into a galloping panic, yet also guiding it towards the tarmac. On reaching the tar, with its strange front-to-back gallop, the unfortunate giraffe toppled down by losing traction and immediately pounced on by the hungry cats. Once again holding the head down, the non-returb closing the artery, the animal soon expired painlessly. I saw this many times and was enthralled by the teamwork displayed by the pride, their cubs looking on and learning with enthusiasm. I've seen the male lion lying on an anthill, allowing his scent to waft downwind to a nervous herd of zebra and wildebeest watching intently as they drift away from this tent straight into the waiting paws of the females. Like Neil Diamond, the leopard is highly nocturnal, solitary, and only coming together to mate. Out of all the animals I've experienced, the leopard has the most profound effect on people. It seems to appear or disappear at will, like a wreath of tawny smoke. I mean, I've hunted and once been attacked by a leopard, and they're by far the most devastatingly powerful and vicious of the felines. All this is in my book Soul Safari. They make nervous wrecks of hunters in leopard blinds as they wait, either with a camera or a gun, by a hanging bait. Suddenly appearing with a snarl that vibrates the atmosphere, I've seen a leopard tear the throat out of an impala with a savagery that, if I didn't know better, I would say it was hatred. I've had those yellow eyes stare right through me as though I was an irritating piece of glass, and there is that time that a huge male walked underneath my Land Rover and out the other side with a nonchalance that could be felt. This is surely the Prince of Darkness. A leopard is built like a prize fighter with corded muscles and explosive speed. The cheetah, though, is more like a gangling sprinter, built for amazing bursts of speed up to 60 miles an hour in short, thunderous sprints. Small head to minimize wind resistance, non-retractable claws for extra traction. Elastic spine, rudder-shaped tail, all designed for speed. We like the leopard and Neil Diamond, yet they're also, once again, very solitary. Now, here in the UK, we have an amazing thing called a murmuration. It's a natural phenomenon. This is when thousands of starlings, numbering in their thousands, give a beautiful, like a aerial display, like a ballet. like a black cloud that has somehow learned to dance to the rhythm of silence. This phenomenal exuberance of acrobatics fills the sky and the soul in equal measure. I mean, scientists have yet to decipher this Swan Lake of the sky. Is it some form of communication? Is it a form of protection, like the bait balls the fish used to confuse predators? I mean, the absence of any bird of prey seems to go against us, and it's mainly done by dusk as well. A mystery yet to be solved. I mean, we're all aware how certain birds waddle along use the floor, like the ground hornbill, going in small little groups, hunting for food. How the kingfisher hunts fish, using its feather tone to be able to hunt successfully. I mean, we're all aware of how migratory birds use oceans and continents, and they navigate by the stars. As explained to before, we put swallows in a planetarium. And one of the biggest thrills for me is here in England is to see the swallows coming in from South Africa every year, and they dip in the dive in front of my car at night as I'm driving home from work. Also, what's lovely is we get the European nightjar. That is also quite common in South Africa, and they migrate every year all the way up through Central Africa, through East Africa, through Europe, and over into my back garden, or close to my back garden, which is a source of great thrill to me, because they're like friends from home, you know. And one day when I was a young boy, my dad and we went hunting with shotguns to go and shoot some guinea fowl and pheasant for the table. And many an hour was spent walking along the corn hunting. And we shot quite a few, and then afterwards we went down to the waterhole and we watched a huge flock of cormorants and francolin and sandgrouse come flying in and feeding off the little insects that were hovering just above the water, and they were just like fighter jets coming in, and the absolute mastery of the sky was beautiful. I mean, it's funny how we've always tried to emulate flight. I mean, I know the Wright brothers with their box contraption that looked like a cardboard box on stilts flew for about 12 yards and fell to the ground. We try to fly like a dragonfly with our helicopter, that just makes an awful noise, and it's totally reliant on an engine, and planes with the amount of force they've got to generate to get up in the sky. Whereas birds are just designed for it. Their bones are hollow and their feathers are designed. They truly are absolutely masters of the sky. And it's funny how pictures of angels has always been a human being with wings. I mean, there's nowhere in the Bible that says angels have wings that coming out their back, but it's just the way we picture ourselves being able to fly. It's one of our biggest dreams. And when sometimes we dream about flying, sometimes you dream about leaving your shoes and scooting around the sky and then just floating gently back to Earth. A beautiful dream. I mean, reading old books on Africa and Europe, I'm struck by the descriptions of great flocks measuring miles long and wide, of flamingos filling Lake Victoria in Kenya with a creamy cloud. And the sky used to darken like an avian eclipse as the treetops, departure lounges emptied of thousands of feathered chirping starlings swooping into the sky, checking the sun position, and then with a feathered hush settling on their way. Same with the swallows as well. At the other end of the scale, I've watched the ungainly antics and the comical antics of a family of ostrich on the African plains. Full of self-importance, they preen and perambulate, constantly posing as if some cosmic photographer had them constantly in the studio glare. How we made the dodo extinct for no reason. Then it was tasted nice and it looked stupid. How the great migration routes, corridors across Europe to Africa and back are now what was once a scenic route full of important landmarks. Unfortunately, nowadays they're now reduced to a gauntlet of gunfire and birdshot, because the legal temptation to blow anything out of the sky, useful or not, is just too great for certain people. Guano, which is bird shit, is an important source of minerals that has been a source of a great industry. and is the direct result of a large flock of seagulls. However, those flocks were decimated when feral cats that escaped ships that moored made land, requiring us to go back out there and to exterminate the felines to stop the impact on the birds. Wind turbines, yep. I mean, they take their pound of flesh in birds of prey that fly into their blades. Birds of prey that are sometimes shot or poisoned by unscrupulous certain gamekeepers. Not many, but only a few, but it does happen, due to the fact that they feed on rare, introduced pheasants in artificial compounds that are bred to be shot anyway. As sport, I mean, it's just a correlation between the two. I mean, flocks of seagulls have made a holy terror of themselves on certain seafronts by bypassing the natural hunting and scavenging instincts and instead targeting humans who once fed them but are now discouraged. Indeed, the aggressive element is now prevalent, with open attacks commonplace. Once again, extermination is mentioned. Yet, flocks of birds remain our most beautiful, soul-stirring sight, and is a source of much safari income and long overseas trips made worthwhile by the unbounding sense of exuberant freedom that only a large group of happy, noisy birds can bring. Underground London resembles a frenetic termite mound during the day, with multitudes of people, each with their own set of destinations and problems, rushing up and down staircases, tunnels and platforms, waiting and rushing into whispering metal snakes, eager to get inside before it moves slowly towards the black gaping maw of the tunnel. Loudspeakers blare as the sensors are overloaded with sound, movement and general mayhem. Then the last train leaves, and the platform ticket officers and stairway empty themselves of people. The gates are locked, and like a physical curtain, silence descends. Lights dim, and the noise of civilization fades away. All of a sudden, a silent, black scurrying mass materializes out of the maw of the tunnel, covering the platform like a twitching, furry Persian rug. Rats. Yep, rats in their millions. That total bogeyman of the rodent world, the great brown shark to the cute white furry hamster, man's nemesis and the source of his nightmares. The rat is one of the most adaptable and successful in the animal kingdom. In fact, we are never more than 10 meters away from these twitching, red-eyed demons. We poison them, we shoot them, we burn them, but we never win. I find them fascinating and enjoyable due to the big stiff middle finger they continue to show to humanity and our efforts to eradicate them. The pack is the most intimidating and the most successful type of management and hunting technique ever. I mentioned earlier about how actual coyotes interact with human territories, and the wolfpack has been used to describe everything from street gangs to Nazi submarines. Wolves use a whole pack to hunt down an exhausted and running animal, changing shifts and gears until the unfortunate prey is killed. Cape hunting dogs and hyenas follow suit with the same bloody relish. The pack is almost a complete composite organism, with each member knowing its role to perfection, much to the detriment of whatever it is they are focusing on. I mean, I have spent many an enjoyable hour with both hyenas and Cape hunting dogs, and how they chase lines of kills, working as a pack. And the pack dynamics are a joy to behold. Even during play, the roles are reversed and practiced and perfected for the coming hunt. Then off they go, with a secret signal, known only to them, and they get up, stretch, and the hunt begins. I mean, I firmly believe that in a pack, on a hunt, the psychic senses are in full flow, with orders and instructions being sent almost telepathically to its members, along with instinct. The natural world is full of psychic communication, inaudible to our ears, blaring in its intensity, yet both inaudible and incomprehensible to our withered Western technological senses. In fact, I would go as far to say that the natural world is 60% psychic and instinctive and 40% physical. A fact totally escapes most of us, but I'll be covering that later in the course. Sinking slowly under the blue Indian Ocean off the coast of Mozambique, I slowly discern the dreamy spires of the Coral Cathedral and the town coming up to meet me. Nestling under the spires, schools of fish waited patiently in single file to be pedicured and cleaned by the school of what we call cleaneras, which cleans the fish. Taking my place amongst them, with a large school of barracuda taking up station behind me like bored teenagers, I awaited my turn. Up ahead, the cleaneras worked like striped dervishes. Almost like striped dock workers on a huge potato bass, hovering salubrously in front of me. They cleaned under his gill covers, his scales, and his open mouth, removing the tiny parasites and dusty debris that festered and irritated him. After a while he swam off, and it was my turn. Removing my regulator, I opened my mouth, and immediately they were on my teeth and tongue, removing meat and last night's revelry. Yeah, I know, nice thought, but anyway. My hair came alive as they de-dandruffed me, and managed to massage my scalp with their fins. A lovely, sensual experience. After a while, before the teenagers behind me got bored and started to play with the flick knives in their jaws, I decided to leave. Now, being a qualified dive master and working in a dive resort, I spent many hours, days and weeks underwater, all adding up over the years, and was constantly amazed at the telepathic synchronicity displayed by our largely unseen neighbours a short distance down. Schools of fish would suddenly disappear. Then out of the blue, a large shark would appear. Dolphins would seek out and interact, mainly pregnant women, when I was doing the dolphin encounter tours. All this is in my book, Soul Safari. And we would take people down to snorkel with these dolphins, and they'd come up and they'd play with us or go in circles around us all the time, clicking and making dolphin noises. But if there was a pregnant woman, they used to target her, and she could feel the sonar going through into her womb from the dolphins investigating the human baby. Their intelligence is legendary, playing like mischievous children yet treating us like adults. I have seen humpback whales arrive for a break from their global wanderings, held spellbound by their mournful singing, filling the ocean like an aquatic opera, and marvelled at their playful leaping from the sea, before crashing back with an artillery crash that could be heard inland. And we've heard of schools of killer whales working as a team elsewhere in the world to hunt and to be as successful. Sound travels 4 times faster in water, and whales use this to call for a mate. Using the natural contours of the land and under the water, they bounce the sound off into the blue, far off distance, waiting for the distant mournful reply. They were hunted almost to extinction, and so they modulated their song into the lower frequency. They had a longer range, and they're mostly futile call for a mate. The lower the frequency, the longer the range. The bass rumbles and groans echoing into an empty, lonely world. Now, we have seen an increase in blue whale population and humpback whale population due to the whaling ban. And we have also noted the corresponding change in frequency from a lower frequency to a higher register that covers a shorter distance. as potential mates are more numerous, and altogether happier sound, full of actual promise. Je t'aime de la plus in the key of whale. Schools of fish, uncountable in their numbers, able to change sex at will from male to female depending on the temperature or predation. I have seen on a night dive, as the shift changes from day to night, the normally chilled out grey reef sharks that just cruise around the reef during the day suddenly stop and form marauding gangs, and like the aquatic equivalent of actually street thugs, go out harassing and hunting on the streets and alleyways of the reef, while the day shift cowers in their homes. Come morning they shake fins, have a laugh at last night's festivities, then go back to cruising, uninterested amongst the same residents they were trying so actively to murder the night before. I've seen schools of sailfin and marlin flashing like incandescent strobe lights in excitement as they use their powerful rapier bills to stun and hunt a school of unlucky fish. Surely, I feel that the reef gets to mirror our society in many ways, as does the ocean. With the reef like the town blocks, with its cast of characters, hoodlums, pimps, whores and street sellers and normal people going to work, finishing up the night shift, finishing the day shift. The open ocean is like the trackless waste of Africa, Australia or the rainforest, with its wanderers, vagabonds, communities and weirdos, like the giant squid. Indeed, the four groups I've outlined here is an example of simply passion, the power, the intensity of focus, the vibrancy of being alive, and most importantly, being aware and getting to revel in it. Often I've actually been in tears, overwhelmed by the spectacle of life, so rich, so beautiful, sometimes savage, but mostly just joyous and glorious, at one with the environment, their own abilities, and their spirituality. I once watched a pride of lions gazing off into the verdant, beautiful African sunset, not moving, not playing, just watching the sun sink under its earthy covers. What were they thinking? Were they enjoying the view? I mean, all they needed was a gin and tonic in front of them. Gathering their thoughts? Planning the hunt? Or were they just being lions? Maybe one day they'll tell us. Right, coming to relevance to ourselves. Through some sort of spiritual hotline, animals will breed according to the prevailing conditions. I remember working as a ranger. We had a drought, a bad drought. The die-off was immense. The earth cracked, the trees died. It didn't rain for hours, didn't rain for days, didn't rain for weeks. Weeks turned into months. The only ones that were having an easy time for it was the vultures and the hyenas. We even tried to even the pressure by going out and culling, shooting animals to try and stop the pressure on the few existing water holes that were still active, and they were few and far between. I mean, the sun beat down every day, 45 degrees, 46 degrees, and the bush sang with the heat. Animals trying their best at water holes to dig for water, trying to find water, it just was not there. Elephants were slightly more successful because they could dig deeper using their tusks. We tried to pump water from boreholes, but once again, and slowly but surely you could smell the decay of the animals lying dead in the bush. Then one day a cloud appeared. It was like a vaporous scout just to check out the horizon and checking out the territory before whizzing back. No doubt to give a full report to the god of thunder and rain. The next day a phalanx of dark thunderclouds appeared in the sky. Quickly they rolled back the baking blue sky, replacing it with a blast of thunder like grey generals barking out their orders. And slowly the first raindrops fell. The drought broke. Almost immediately the actually cadaverous bush came alive. Animals pranced and rejoiced, freed from the sentence that awaited them. We ran out of our bungalow, stripped our underwear and danced in the rain. Fortunately that's not on film. But what struck me most was after the drought had broken, the birth rate doubled. Animals that normally give birth to singles were giving birth to twins, and cub sizes and hitter sizes were much bigger, as nature moved to redress the balance, to compensate for the mass mortality that was induced by the drought. After the First World War, the birth rate in the United Kingdom and elsewhere was marked by a huge increase in males as opposed to females, as though across continents nature saw the deficit caused by the industrial conflagration of that war and compensated for the huge dip in the male population. We are closer than we think to the unseen, unconscious laws that are put in place to ensure our survival. I'm often amazed at the images of churches and festivals, especially religious festivals, with the swirling mass of humanity orbiting the black object of their fanaticism and devotion, resembling the mass focus of ants, determined to travel thousands of miles, sometimes at great cost, just to go and, with their fellow members, bask and glow in spiritual devotion. I feel that religion is the biggest herd maker and denier of individuality. In fact, the conformist element is so powerful that the comparison to termites and ants is almost inevitable. Yet, being a Christian myself, I love the individuality of being different from the banal, atheistic, materialistic excuse of existence that people who are atheists believe, or have no faith. Christ never preached mind control, and the rubbish that God needs your actual finances and your money to do his work is just laughable. The mind we have been given is attuned to the cosmos, hot-wired to delve into our spirituality that we've been given, to be at one with the natural world and at home with the supernatural. In fact, I feel it takes more effort and faith to be an atheist than a spiritual person. The believers of actual religion have recognized this instinct towards the spiritual, and our tendency to mass together, and exploited this instinct to create the crowd animal mentioned earlier. But unlike wildebeest, that are triggered by an internal mechanism that causes them to migrate, or by any other species, termite, insect, bird or otherwise, we are influenced by outside words and messages. Charles Manson, a 5-foot dwarf with a little beard, yet he told his followers to kill, and they did. Reverend Jim Jones, mentioned earlier, he looked like Roy Orbison, a square-jawed man with dark glasses. told over 1,000 people to drink cyanide, and they did. Look at Hitler, barely 5 feet tall with a funny moustache. Himmler, with his funny glasses, and he was a potato farmer. Look what the power they had. Yet each one was driven by a power. The power to tell great masses or small groups to go and do whatever they are told. Now, with all our intelligence and technology, we have a default setting in our psyche that seems to have an open policy to influence. It seems strange, and this is a big question, and I'm going to stay on this image for a while. It seems strange that as much as we want to be left alone, we also need the world to know that we exist. Ever seen those annoying idiots that dance behind the camera on live TV broadcasts trying to get the world to see them? People trying to get on a stage just to be in front of people before being hauled off. Reality TV, where even colon irrigation is now filmed, every thought process a live discussion, and the most banal everyday body movement a subject for national debate. It seems we need to peer into each other's lives totally and totally annihilate any barriers or firewalls that keep our individuality. However, there is also a feeling of comfort, knowing that people are exactly like ourselves. Watch the same TV shows, cook the same meals, go to the same toilet, etc. Yet, I sense that in reality TV a great sense of coming together, of community, denied to other generations behind closed doors. Yet, ironically, those generations were much more interactive with each other on a one-to-one basis, actually meeting and speaking and spending time in each other's company, homes, etc. It is strange that with technology enabling us to communicate with anyone, anywhere, loneliness is now one of the biggest problems of modern society. Trains, once a sight of chatter and sidelong glances, are now mobile cells of human silence as everyone stares, hypnotized, into tiny glowing screens, all packed together yet separated by a technological hemisphere, with our own mind being the barrier. I mean, I travelled the world before the advent of mobile phones and relied on the embassies to back me up in case of trouble. Nowadays one can phone from a back pocket anywhere in the world. Just computers, now as part of the furniture as a sideboard, enable millions to log in together in a common goal. In the film Star Wars, something called the Force was a major influence in the lives of those who were trained to recognize it. I believe in a spiritual force, or spiritual blanket, that covers all living things, which I call spirit nature, and is available to those who live in it. Now, we have a technological equivalent called the World Wide Web that is available to anyone that can press a button and log into it. This technological force is so powerful that a whole existence is named after it. Is called the digital age. I mean, the good that this has brought is incredible, but unfortunately so is the bad. Technology has made information miraculous, but the drawback remains of becoming solitary, insular, shut off from the world, and captured by a glowing screen. A whole generation cut off from the natural world, of being outside, minds expanded by huge horizons, imaginations made fertile of the prospects of travel, all shut down and captured. Sedentary lifestyles and obesity are now a huge problem as society spends more time indoors and relying on an external medium to stimulate their minds. Trolling and cyber attacks on people that annoy you are also a huge problem, as sad, lonely individuals, strengthened by the anonymity and non-nimities, I can never say that word, of a keyboard screen and the darkened bedroom, vent their rage and frustration at what they really perceive what is wrong in their own lives. And I also think that at a bigger scale, the advent of actual porn on it as well is also becoming a problem. People becoming addicted. But anyway, that's not a part of this program. Are we meant to be like this? Are we meant to function this way? I don't for a second believe that we are. I mean, we resemble the giraffe with its loose temporary associations and huge population. Close family groups that move within an inner circle of associations and friends on the outside. The whole population spread out over its known environment. We resemble the lion, this emphasis of family and home. Active hunters for what makes us survive. Young adults leaving home and hearth to go and form their own prides. We resemble the baboon with its rigid hierarchy at home and at work, with a distinct pecking order of authority, all for the greater good, all for the greater result. We resemble the elephant in our capacity for love and expressing that love. We resemble the wildebeest for our enjoyment of great crowds all together for the same reason. We resemble the school of fish in the ocean or the murmuration of starlings for our love of choreographed motion, typified by our love of actual parades. We resemble the whales for the love of song and of vast open free spaces, free to wander at our choosing. What we don't even closely resemble is a mindless programming of ants and termites, unable to do anything outside the swarm and incapable of individual thought. And I'll say that again. Unable to do anything outside the swarm and incapable of individual thought. Shut away and alone, staring at a flickering screen with a mind shorn of horizons. Open to any spiritual message that a perfect stranger thousands of miles away might want to force upon you, and you will believe. They were programming you. And now we have a word called de-radicalization online. You've been influenced online that they now have to de-radicalize you. Not communicating, not interacting, and once again, not even thinking. This is not why we were designed and given a planet to look after and enjoy. This is not why we were given the bodies that we've been given, the mind that we've been given, the tools that we've been given, our spirituality we've been given. It is only by getting back to our spirituality and returning to what I call our spirit nature that we can get ourselves and our planet back. The alternative is too ghastly to contemplate. Okay, that's going to end Module 2, Lecture 3. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed what we've been talking about. And I will see you again on Module 2, Lecture 4. Thank you very much, and thanks for listening to me. Bye for now.